Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's Josh. Yes, we're giving Chizuru first impressions today, and I have some good things to share for you if you're out there, because there's a lot of conversations about if characters feel strong enough, because we have the infinity characters, or the big characters, right? The Malins, the Tressas, the Cassius, the infinity combos out there. Can Chizuru pop off? Now we're going to start with that, and yes, she absolutely can pop off, and like we talked about before, a lot of it has to do with a couple of her different cards here that have certain epiphanies. We talked about Tsukuyomi being an absolute monster of a card for her potential build, and one of her highest pop-off builds, if you wanted to, in that video we talked about was this version here that adds extra hits to her payoff card, Shadow of the Moon Plus, or just Shadow of the Moon if you don't gain access to the Plus version, but you should be able to do this. So what the basis of the pop-off version is to just get Shadow of the Moon Plus and then just cast a bunch of Tsukuyomis to give a bunch of extra hits and then just drop it. Just drop that big one energy, big damage, pump it up a bunch with Tsukuyomi here, and that's really how she works out in that regard. We're going to touch on the rest of her kit though here, give her an overall feeling and review as well. And how do I feel about Chizuru after I've been able to play on, some other accounts, as well as just use her in this free-to-play account that I have, just messing around with her because we're not playing on her on this account, in the battle with some of the good supports like Veronica and Nia, Ray, and she actually feels like pretty decent. Now I can see that she might have some problems in Chaos, and that's because it comes down to this one card. The Bound at Dusk card is going to be the official name here, and this is because it gives the Inhibit mechanic. Now this is the first time we've seen this, but Inhibit is a buff that is going to, well, buff up the hit count of Shadow of the Moon and Shadow of the Moon Plus, which is something we just talked about that we'd like, but the downside is you can't gain AP except for the initial AP you gain at the start of the turn or when you ravage an enemy. And when we're talking about stuff outside of Chaos, sometimes out in Chaos as well, where we're not ravaging things in the later portions of Chaos all that often with a lot of teams, we're just kind of clearing the content. This is a giant downside. This was an attempt, I think, by the development team to sort of get away from Mika, get away from AP generation, and allow this character to sort of do something that gives you an AP benefit, but it's really kind of a fake one. So if you look at all the epiphanies here, none of these, honestly, at the end of the day, I think are all that great. The best one, probably if you're going to use it inside of Chaos or something like that, when you're in your Chaos run, you can get like the first epiphany. That's fine. The base version of the card, you're going to be using this right on turn one, and then it kind of gives you one extra free AP per turn. It basically gives you a random card in your hand, gains the lead effect that always procs every single turn. So this kind of gives you one extra AP, but you can't get any more than that because you have the Inhibit buff. For the other epiphanies though, it's fine, right? This is just like a better version of her inherent one, giving this to two different cards, so you have some choices there of what gets dropped down to 0, so you can use that first. This being a payoff card, I don't think is all that worthwhile. You don't really want this in your build. We'll talk more about that at the end of all of these epiphanies here. This one here, you can activate 2 other cards in your hand for free, which could be like 4 AP worth of value. The problem is you want to play your cards in a certain order, so I don't like this one either. And then this one here, it gives the ability to activate 2 lead cards at the start of the turn. When you upgrade this, like activate 2 random lead cards. I guess, although lead's not like everywhere in the game, this is like a super narrow mechanic, but you can kind of see that the initial version, right, is kind of what the lead is, and it's giving lead to things, and then apparently later on, if they put more lead cards into the game, she can be a way for you to benefit off of having a bunch of lead cards in your deck as well, although that's not really all that great in the meta. And then this one right here, decrease the cost of the highest cost card in your hand by 2 at the start of the turn, is also a thing. So my real takeaway from Bound at Dusk, this whole attempt at the mechanic of like giving you some sort of like semi AP efficiency built in. She can give you a couple extra actions per turn. I don't really like it. But I will say this. I think this is a card that if you're running Chizuru in a Chaos team, you're not using Mika, you don't have a way to generate a bunch of AP in Chaos a lot of the times. Usually it's just like wave mechanics if you're using Mika or Mika's own skill card, right? The source of water that generates an AP is a way for you to generate AP inside of a Chaos run. During your Chaos run, you can utilize this card and it'll be okay out there, but outside of Chaos, there's so many different ways, not even just with Mika, but with Divine Blessing benefits, in card cycling, in combinations with characters like Nia and Veronica, where you can generate sort of these AP machines, even if Mika's not in your party, if you're putting a deck together. One of the ones that I'll showcase, I guess, at the end of this video, will be using one of the new Forbidden cards, right? You guys might have seen this one. When you draw it, it draws you another card and gives you an AP, but it just sits in your hand and doesn't do anything. You pair that in a Nia team and you can use Adagio to keep putting it back into the deck, redrawing it, and then it will proc its effect every time you end up redrawing it after you put it back in the deck with Adagio, and you can generate multitudes of AP with that. So what I would suggest for Bound of Dust, so we can get over this hurdle here, is I would leave this in your deck and utilize it while you're going through Chaos in a lot of Chizuru teams. But at the end of the day, right before you fight the final boss in Chaos, I'd probably try to take this thing out. I don't like it that much. And maybe if you want to use it as like I get one small buff, right, on my payoff card, you can add an extra hit to Shadow of the Moon Plus if you want it in your finalized deck and you get this version. But outside of that, with just all these base Epiphanies, I'm not that big of a fan of the card. And for the pop-off potential builds and team combinations that you're going to use with her outside of Chaos, you don't really have a use for this card. You're going to be generating AP anyways, and you don't want to have this inhibit mechanic in your deck. So I know that took like 14 years, it feels like, talking about Bound of Dusk, but that is how I feel about that mechanic in this card. Now, the other mechanics that she does have, which are pretty nice, one of her big ones here is Karmic Flames. This is the Shackle mechanic. In Will-O-Wisps and Shackle is how you're going to be building up your big bind Shadow of the Moon Plus cards. So Will-O-the-Wisp is a mechanic that will give you an upgrade to your Shadow of the Moon when you hit 5 stacks on it. One of the ways to generate Will-O-the-Wisp stacks is to hit somebody that is Cursed Shackles. And the only way that she really has to put Cursed Shackles on right here is in the Karmic Flames. So this is going to debuff one enemy, and you cannot have this debuff on more than one enemy at a given time. The Epiphanies for this card will just allow you to do other things on top of that. The first Epiphany here is pretty nice because Cursed Shackles itself gives you a Will-O-the-Wisp stack for each hit that your attack does. And this is just going to add one hit if something has Cursed Shackles on it, making it even easier to generate Will-O-the-Wisp stacks so you can generate your Blade of the Moon pluses, right? The other one here is a nice little AP efficiency side grade of sorts here. This one allows you to get a hit in for 150, put your Cursed Shackles up, have high tempo, it costs 1, and then it reduces the next card of this unit by 1 as well. So you can cast this for 1, and then it makes one of your other 1-drops free as well. So if you want to empty your hand out, right, you want to get rid of some of the AP generation, or use this as a pseudo way to help you generate AP. So these first two allow you to really help pay off and get sort of the train moving on what she wants with her own gameplay style and gameplay mechanics. This one here that costs 2 is a skill that creates a Shadow of the Moon. It has initiations and it push Cursed Shackle on something. I would avoid this one, it costing 2. This character is sleek and efficient. We don't need a 2-cost card in here, and we definitely don't want to be paying 2 every time we're trying to put Cursed Shackle on a different enemy throughout waves or whatever it is that we're doing. I don't even want to pay 2 to put Cursed Shackle on a single time, let alone more than once, just to gain access to Shadow of the Moon. No, we're not doing that here, right? The other one here, this one's pretty interesting. So if you're in like an AoE situation, or a multi situation out there, you can use this one, put Cursed Shackle on something. When you defeat the enemy, it will automatically create this version of Karmic Flames and put it back into your hand. So then you can Curse Shackle something else. Sounds good. It seems okay. I don't know what sort of scenario we really need a card like this in, because do note that this has exhaust. So it's not like you can use this version of Karmic Flames, Curse Shackle something, boom, 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 kill one guy, right? Have this version come back and then draw another Karmic Flames, right? On turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. And then for the last 2 enemies, Curse Shackle, because Curse Shackle only stacks to 1 person anyway. And you're really just sort of exhausting this card to then not draw it again until you need it. So it's like fine, but I would rather go with one of the payoff ones, like this version that adds extra hits, or this one that gives you more AP efficiency. You also have this one that adds more damage to things that's Curse Shackled on. It could be a little bit overkill, but you could make some nice little screenshots with the Curse Shackle damage increase, which is fine. Like, damage for this card going up is okay, but I really like the efficiency of the first 2. But if you want a bigger payoff, you can go for the 3rd one here as well. I would avoid the other 2 for any kind of deck that you make with her. Then we have Tsukuyomi here. The base version of this is just gonna give you better Will-o'-the-Wisps every time you use an attack card for each hit that it has. So once you cast this thing, the next time you use an attack card, it's gonna give you extra Will-o'-the-Wisps each time it hits, which is a big deal there. The first one here, the base version, gives you 2. So if you have an attack that hits 1 time, this gives you 2. If you have an attack that hits 3 times, this will give you 6. The first upgrade will increase it to 3 per hit. So a 3-hit skill or a 4-hit skill would give you 9 or 12 total stacks, which makes it very efficient at building up those Shadow of the Moons to Shadow of the Moon pluses. We also have this one here, which adds a hit, but it only gives you 1 Will-o'-the-Wisp stack per hit. I don't really particularly like this one because it's in the middle area of like trying to be like a payoff where you want to use this on something that has like a really high damage percent bonus like Shadow of the Moon does, but also at the same time it's in your deck to help you generate Shadow of the Moons, although way less efficient than even the base version is. And I bring this up because it's in that weird midpoint, because the best one for payoffs is this one that adds 2 hits specifically to Shadow of the Moon or Shadow of the Moon Plus, which is like a double benefit. If you're trying to do like a big payoff team composition for her, you have a lot of card drawing in those teams. And what this allows you to do is just empty your hand of these Tsukuyomis. Even if you're not gonna use Shadow of the Moon or Shadow of the Moon immediately afterwards, you can empty these Tsukuyomis out of your hand, leave them in preparation for the next time you would cast Shadow of the Moon Plus. Get them out of the hand, open up your hand space, draw some other cards, use Adagio, discard cards, whatever it is that you're doing out there. And when you finally filter through your deck for that big Maylin, Dragon Kick, Veronica style combo, you'll have all of these stacked up and you'll just Shadow of the Moon something, right, for just huge damage. And it's going to hit multiple times. So it's going to be pretty cool. That's the big payoff if you want to use this version of that for the big Dragon Kick Maylin style. That's going to be a good version of Tsukuyomi there as well. This one's interesting. I'm not entirely sure about this one quite yet because I don't think we need the generation power of a team composition that would utilize something like this, where you generate 3 Will-o'-the-Wisps for each attack card of this unit in hand. I'm not sure where we're trying to generate a bunch of different versions of her attack cards. For instance, like there's this down here, the Oni Hunt. I know we're skipping ahead where like you can use Oni Hunt to create moon slashes and keep them in your hand that'll hit 1 time each. And while they're sitting there in your hand, you can use this version of Tsukuyomi to generate. We don't need to do all of that, right? We don't need to do that. We just use this one, okay? We don't need to do all that weird stuff. The last one here is like an upgrade. So if you don't want to do the combo style, this can just give you slight upgrades that'll give you a small benefit every turn. It's going to have leads, so you can maybe use this for free on turn 1. It doesn't matter that much in my opinion. But every time you use an attack card of Chizuru's, you'll get 2 Will-o'-the-Wisp. I'm not the biggest fan of this, although the plus side of this is that, well, once you play it, and you're really Chizuru focused probably in your strategy, you don't really need to worry about drawing Tsukuyomi, playing it for 0 the turn that you're trying to attack with her as well. If you have like low card quality as far as card drawing and card consistency and card searching and whatever team that is you're choosing to use Chizuru in, you could probably get some value out of something like this. But if you're in a more fine-tuned team composition, you're going to have the card draw, you're going to have the card searches for this character, and you'll be better off with either getting this to generate Shadow of the Moon or just make your Shadow of the Moon stronger with this one. These are the two that I would really laser focus in on when building this character. We also have another really cool card in the form of Oni Hunt. So this is a great card as well, and also is something that allows you to really build up those Shadow of the Moon stacks quite fast because it hits multiple times. The base version of this does 3 hits, so that's going to be multiple hits, multiple Will-O-Wisp stacks, multiple Blade of the Moons with Tsukuyomi's buffing this thing up, right? So this is the base version, and it also buffs up the next bind card damage that you are using. And well, the only bind card we really have is Shadow of the Moon. So this is a double whammy here. This hits multiple times to help build up Shadow of the Moons and enhance them, but also buffs their damage up. And we like to see that the Epiphanies continue this trend. The first one here increases the amount of hits to 4, up from 3. So you're going to be able to generate Shadow of the Moon plus a little bit easier with this one, and it gives 40% damage bonus to the next bind card used. So this is a double whammy. It hits multiple times. We like that, and the damage bonus is great. This one here has, well, a higher damage bonus. So if you're really going all in on buffing up your Shadow of the Moon, you can use this one, but it only hits 1 time, meaning that it works a lot worse with some of the other ways of adding Will-O-Wisp stacks to Chizuru, so she can gain the benefit of Shadow of the Moon plus as fast as possible. So you could use this one, and it definitely has a spot in a build somewhere if you're building around just buffing Shadow of the Moon up, because that's what this does. But it's only a 20%, boost to the damage compared to the 40% here, which isn't, in my opinion, the greatest thing ever when you're factoring in the fact that, well, this is a 4-hit card. It helps us build Shadow of the Moon up, gives us consistency in that way, whereas this one's just a single hit card, and you kind of need to, it kind of just exists there like you would like a Ray plus 50% damage bonus card to the next attack you do or something. So this one's fine, not my favorite though. This one, I would avoid this one. If there's no other attack cards in your hand, you can get a 5-hit card, but why are we jumping through all of these hoops to add 2 extra hits to Oni Hunt when we can just get the 4-hit version that also buffs our payoff card at the same time? I don't know why this card really exists, to be honest with you. They probably could take it out of the game. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't think I am though. This one adds Moon Slash. It's a 1-cost skill, gives you 2 Moon Slashes, and then makes them both cost 0. And this is basically just a very weird version of the 1-mana card Tressa has that gives you 2 Shadow Daggers, except the Shadow Daggers are Moon Slashes that are higher damage multipliers. I don't know why I would use this version of Oni Hunt. Like, cool, I get to hit a couple of times. Those are building Will-O-Wisp stacks, but like this version hits 4 times and helps my payoff card. Don't ask me. And then there's this one here, the upgrade, which gives a 40% damage bonus to Shadow of the Moon plus. And on top of that, at the start of your turn, you will always gain 3 Will-O-Wisp stack. I guess it's Will-O-Wisp, not Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp stacks. This one is going to be like your go-to. I'm not trying to combo out. I'm not trying to abuse this character with Oni Hunt. The version over here that hits 4 times, that also buffs it up by 40% in combination with maybe something like the Tsukuyomis we talked about that allows you to add 3 Will-O-Wisp per hit. If you're not using that, then maybe this upgrade is something that you can look towards using to buff up Shadow of the Moon, because it's very easy to use. And the damage bonuses, while they're all very not greedy, but they're only for Chizuru, right? You're casting an upgrade card that only benefits this character, which is fine. It's just going to give you a damage bonus to your payoff card and help you get there slowly over time. You're not comboing out with this card, but hey, 3 Will-O-the-Wisp stacks, you're in there 3 turns. That's 9. That's almost 2 upgrades to a Shadow of the Moon already. Just for existing, you cast this card, and it has 40% damage bonus on it. The downside of this card is it doesn't have initiation on it, so it's going to be floating around in your deck. You're going to want to have it and play it on turn 1 if you're using it. And the turn you play it, you will get the benefit to Shadow of the Moon Plus. But if you're on like turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, something, you're trying to do something outside of chaos, I'm not excited to see this in my my deck on turn 3 or turn 4. It's like, okay, well, what am I going to generate 3 Will-O-the-Wisps on turn 7, 8, 9? Like, is that really helping me? So it's fine, especially in like chaos. You're trying to put a deck together. You're trying to get through the run or whatever. But as far as like the high efficiency decks, I don't think they'll be using this version of the Oni Hunt. I think they'll be either using this one or this one if you want the biggest payoff for your Shadow of the Moon Plus. But I like this one, I think, the most. And then her ego skill also is actually based around the same sort of strategy where you just want to generate all of these Will-O-Wisp stacks for Shadow of the Moon, because it starts at a 250 mod, which is pretty low, but then it gets a 50% damage bonus mod for every Shadow of the Moon that you've created for that entire combat, and it stacks up to 10 times. So this can go up to like a 750% mod, which is pretty neat. Although for 5 EP, hey man, 5 EP, 750 damage, is that what we want sometimes? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but it is going to be there for you to really get some explosive damage out where you drop this and a Shadow of the Moon Plus buffed up with Tsukuyomi, both in the same turn, and it gives really explosive damage that way. And you're asking, Josh, why are you dogging on? Why are you dogging on that card so much? Why are you dogging on the inhibition or the bind card so much? Don't take this as like this is the max power of Chizuru or whatever, but her teams are going to have very low cost outside. Look at 0.4. It is not going to be hard for you to come across a team composition that wants to generate and has the ability to generate a little bit of AP while drawing a ton of cards. This is going to be a pretty nice squad for her. You can use like Ray as well. And that's why I kind of dog on this Bound at Dusk inhibit strategy card so much. I'm really not the biggest fan, but we're going to ditch all of this stuff just so we can see we can generate a little bit of AP for us here. So let's just go ahead and play some cards here. Pop this off, pop a Repose, drawing in there's a Nia's Curiosity. This gives an AP. This is a Divine Blessing on it. That's something I wouldn't get AP from, right? Use Nia's Curiosity here. See if we can find Forbidden Eternal Hunger. Oh, look it. Draw a card, get an AP. That's crazy. I have 4. Wow, I'm gonna play Confiscation. I have 5. Let me play this guy. Like you can just very easily make a ton of AP. And if we would get Adagio with a couple of the other card draw stuff that Nia and Veronica both have, we'd put Forbidden Hunger back in the deck, and then we'd redraw it again and would reproc its attunement effect, and we'd all have a great time. We'd be making all of the AP all of the time. I am going to have a full complete Chizuru build guide and stuff. I'm going to go look into a little bit of math for her gear and equipment and partners especially, so you guys have that. I wanted to get this out there with the first impressions of her finalized versions of her cards and her epiphanies, and give you guys a little bit of a leg up on what's going on out there. If this was informative to you, make sure you come back for more. Hit that sub down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one.